What's happening, guys? We are back here again today for another video. This time around, on today's discussion, guys, we're going to be going over the top 5 dangers of modifying your car. Now, before we get into the topic of today's discussion, guys, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping in. Feel free to hit that subscribe button down below. We've got an excellent library of automotive content. Your support is much appreciated. I would imagine most of you guys are fellow modification enthusiasts if you're viewing the channel. So again, I want to take the time to give you some perspective and insight as far as understanding the possible risks and dangers associated with modifying cars. Let's get into our first topic of discussion here. So one of the most obvious things on the list here, guys, is going to be the risk associated with voiding the manufacturer's warranty on your car. A lot of people will often find a hot debate with aftermarket ECU software, looking at piggyback tunes versus ECU port flashing tunes. You have to be incredibly careful when it comes to tuning a car, because most cases, if you have a powertrain issue, if you've got something going on, in most situations, the dealership is going to be able to tell that you've overwritten the ECU's existing base file. So in most cases, dealerships are going to be able to tell if your car's tuned, despite what people may argue about on the internet. A lot of times that's going to be the case. Even if you flash the car back to stock, more than likely they're going to be able to tell if the car was previously tuned. So again, you definitely need to make sure you understand what you're getting into. If you flash the car, if you tune it, there's a good chance you're going to void your warranty. Now, a lot of people prefer the piggyback route. I'm not personally a huge fan of piggyback tunes. Obviously, you can manipulate some various parameters to extract more power out of the car without actually overriding the ECU. More topics on that for other videos. So in most cases, guys, if you are going to be considering tuning the car, if you've got a vehicle that's fairly new, that's still under the manufacturer's factory powertrain warranty, if you decide to overwrite the ECU, if you flash the car, most cases you're probably going to void your factory powertrain warranty. So next on the list, guys, catastrophic powertrain failure. This is definitely something that is a realistic possibility. If you're pushing more air, more fuel, you've got big turbos, you're getting deep into the rabbit hole of various bolt-ons, you've exceeded those factory parameters, you're obviously going to have a lot more risk associated with those types of modifications. So if you flash your car, as previously stated, more than likely you've already lost that powertrain warranty. And if you obviously run into a serious catastrophe, if you blow up your engine, grenade your transmission, if you take it to the dealership, they're going to point the finger at the modification. So if you've tuned the car, if you've got big turbos, you've got various bolt-on upgrades, you always have to make sure that you have a full, comprehensive understanding of all the risks associated with these modifications. If you're going max effort, full bolt-ons, big turbos, E85, custom tuning, the whole 9 yards, you're out there performing multiple launches. If you end up blowing up your transmission, obviously this is going to be a very expensive situation, and you're not going to have any kind of factory powertrain warranty to fall back on. Catastrophic powertrain failure is definitely going to put you in a really tough spot. If you find yourself in a situation where you're going to have to replace an engine or transmission, it's going to come with a hefty price tag. Factory replacements, obviously, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg if you're trying to source an engine or transmission or something along those lines. A lot of people may decide to go used, depending on what the market has to offer. But again, if you're not prepared to take that risk, if you don't have that financial safety net in place, you may want to be careful when it comes to modifying your vehicle, especially if it's going to be a daily driver or your only car. Leading into the next point here, guys, if you are financing a car and you happen to have a catastrophic powertrain failure, such as an engine or a transmission, you're still financing the car. You're in an absolutely terrible situation. Reason being is you obviously owe money just to have the car sitting in the driveway or the garage or whatever the case may be, and you now have essentially a paperweight that you're still spending money on every single month with interest. I literally can't think of a worse situation than making payments on a car that doesn't even run. Like if you're spending $600, $700 a month on essentially a paperweight, you're obviously in a really tough spot. So you always want to make sure you have all of your ducks in a row. You want to have some kind of safety net before you really get super deep in the woods when it comes to, serious drivetrain modifications. You have another car, maybe a daily driver. You want to have some type of financial reserve to make sure that you're going to be able to cover those expenses in the case you run into a pretty major catastrophe. With my experience working as a service advisor, I've definitely seen a lot of these encounters firsthand with customers' cars where they might have been pushing something a little bit further past their limits and they run into a pretty bad situation, obviously still making payments on the car but not having a functional car to sell. So again, you always want to make sure that you've got your ducks in a row, that you've got some type of safety net or alternative course of action if you're going to be taking your modifications to a pretty extreme level. The next thing on the list here, guys, as far as kind of dangers and risks associated with modifying cars, is getting yourself in trouble with the law. A lot of people nowadays are really having a hard time with exhaust. Inspection is definitely becoming more of a concern now, with exhausts in particular, tuning in some states. Obviously varies case by case depending on where you live, but A lot of times you need to be fully aware that modifying the car may not always comply with local state laws and regulation. You always want to make sure you've got a good understanding as far as what the intended use of these parts are going to be, whether it be for day-to-day street use or off-road use only. If you're driving around with catless downpipes, you're shooting pops and flames and bangs and all that crazy stuff, it's more than likely you're going to probably catch some unwanted attention for the law, so you always want to make sure to modify responsibly. I always do my best as a car enthusiast to kind of help provide some perspective to give everybody the information to make the informed decisions about what makes sense for their cars. So I hope you guys find this perspective helpful when it comes to making these choices about what is best for you. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate all the support. Make sure to leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts as far as your approach to modifying cars. Give the video a like, really helps me out. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.